There is a problem with fighting games. Whether you play fighting games or not, you've probably seen the controversy around Tekken 8 announcing it's adding a Tekken shop. This announcement came as quite the surprise to the community, as there was no indication in the original game's release that there was going to be microtransactions. In the announcement, they even had to include that they are changing the ESRB rating of the game to show that it had in-game purchases. When the announcement first came out, most people assumed that there was going to be costumes being sold in the store, much like most other fighting games. We got our first look at the in-game store just a couple days ago, and it looks pretty much as expected. In the image released, we can see that they're selling legacy costumes for some of the characters for 400 Tekken coins. Tekken coins are apparently valued at 100 per $1 USD, but it's currently unknown on what bundles they're going to let us purchase of them. For example, Street Fighter 6 has a similar currency system, but the lowest amount of coins you can purchase at one time is 250. So why is something so small as adding costumes in fighting games causing so much controversy? There are a few different arguments I've seen online that are against how modern fighting games are handling their cosmetic DLC. So in this video, I'm going to break down the main arguments I've seen online and give my personal take on them, because there's some that I definitely think are valid and some that I think are not. Please leave a like on the video and subscribe for more fighting game content. I do combo guides, character and costume showcases, and trivia for pretty much every major fighting game release. There is a lot coming to fighting games over the next few months, so make sure you keep an eye on my channel to not miss out on anything. Before I even talk about what I've seen other people say online, I want to preface this video by saying I am a huge costume person. I've never really understood that argument that cosmetics don't matter, especially in fighting games. The fighting game genre is one where you're staring at the same character model for literally hundreds of hours on end. A new costume for your main can make the character look cooler to you, make them look like someone else from another franchise, or even change them into an entirely different character.
So you're gonna take on Power Girl.
I've got no regrets.
Maybe beating you can change that.
Aesthetics play such a key role in why people play certain fighting games, and sometimes the aesthetic that someone's looking for is in an alternative costume. So no matter which side of the fence you're on about this Tekken shop situation, I don't think we can get out of it by just saying cosmetics don't matter. Starting off with what I don't agree with, one common argument I see online is that Tekken adding its Tekken shop is somehow taken away from the original release of the game. Usually when I see people make comments of this argument, they include that they enjoyed the game when it originally came out. You can check out the Tekken or even the Mortal Kombat subreddit around the time Tekken 8 released, and you'll see a lot of posts just dunking on Mortal Kombat saying how much more content Tekken 8 has. In my opinion, Tekken 8 is still a very much complete package, especially compared to other modern fighting games that have released recently. The only times I think you'll be reminded of the Tekken shop is if you go to it or fight somebody using a premium costume they bought. I just really struggle to call a game that has so many modes, 3 costumes already per character, and such a big roster incomplete. As long as they don't add any obnoxious pop-ups or anything when new costumes come out, I really don't think the general experience of the game is going to change at all. The next argument I've seen that I disagree with is that Tekken adding a shop is somehow a slippery slope into microtransactions offering a competitive advantage in fighting games. The first instance I can remember of fighting games having cosmetic DLC was back in 2009 when Street Fighter 4 was selling costume packs. And 15 years later, we still don't have a mainline Tekken, Street Fighter, or Mortal Kombat game offering you a competitive advantage if you're willing to pay for it. The closest thing I can think of to this was when Tekken 7 was selling frame data as DLC. So if anything, Tekken 8 has actually improved on this, as it has the most robust training mode you'll find in fighting games, with frame data included in the base game. There is of course the case where a DLC character is released broken, like Leroy in Tekken 7, but since fighting games adding new characters has been a thing since the 90s, I don't think it's related to cosmetic DLC. The last point I want to talk about that I disagree with is one that I just think is factually incorrect, and is when people say that back in my day these costumes would have just been unlockable. In Street Fighter 4 there were no unlockable costumes, and in Street Fighter 5 and 6 there is 1 per character. In Mortal Kombat 9 and 10, there were between 1 and 3 unlockable costumes per character, and in Mortal Kombat 1, there's at least 2 outfits for every character with way more colours than there's ever been, and they tend to add a 3rd costume for a few characters every season. And in Tekken 8, as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 unlockable costumes per character, and different alternate versions of their default you can unlock as well. And there are more examples of this not changing, like in Dead or Alive 6 or Killer Instinct. so I really don't know what games these people are referring to when they say they used to be able to unlock more costumes. There's also the fact that costumes in modern fighting games take way more resources and effort compared to any previous titles. I mean, just look at the quality of Tekken 8's models.
貴様、一体何者だ?
すぐに理解することになる。
So to me, it would make sense that we wouldn't have as many outfits to choose from, but it's funny that this isn't even the case. So now we're gonna get into the issues I've seen people have with how Tekken's implementing its shop that I definitely agree with. First is the fact that there was no indication in the original release of the game that there was going to be microtransactions. This just screams that Bandai Namco didn't want any bad press about the game having microtransactions, whether in reviews when the game came out or just in articles about the game. This is just really shady, as neither fighting game developers nor the publishers should be having to hide a part of the game from reviewers that the customer's gonna have to experience. It reminds me of when Street Fighter 6 had its own controversy when it had its first post-release costume drop. Capcom withheld the pricing of the outfits in all promotional material, so the first time we saw how much they costed was when they literally dropped in-game. I just think that if you're releasing a game or DLC, you should be as upfront as possible, especially if you're confident in the quality of it. This kind of false advertising, even for something as small as cosmetics, is still rubbing the community the wrong way. The next issue is one that actually affects pretty much every multiplayer game I know of. It is the fact that these games won't just let you purchase cosmetics with your money. What I mean by this, for example, is how Tekken won't just let you purchase these costumes with your money, but only with Tekken coins, or fighter coins, or fighter bucks, or whatever they're called. Across all the different multiplayer games I play, I've got so many leftover scraps of the different currencies they force you to buy, which is the entire trick of why they implement the system. By not allowing you to purchase costumes directly with your money, you're forced to overbuy these made-up currencies that each game has. Another part of that controversy I mentioned earlier about Street Fighter 6 was the fact that the outfits they added costed 300 fighter coins. The problem with this is that the lowest amount of fighter coins you can purchase is 250 and the next lowest amount is 610. What this means is that if you just want, say, Cammy's outfit 3, you can either purchase the 250 fighter coins twice, leaving you with just not enough to get another costume, or you can buy the 610 fighter coin bundle, but now you've spent $20 and all you wanted was one costume. Once again, if you're confident in the quality of the content you're dropping after your game came out, you shouldn't have to rely on these scummy tactics to make your money. Ironically, the costume in the thumbnail is actually from a game called Dead or Alive 6, which did this really well, and you could purchase whatever outfit you wanted directly from the store page of whatever console you're on. Dead or Alive 6 had its own issue where there were these season pass exclusive costumes you could only get if you bought these mega bundles of different outfits. Aside from this, the Dead or Alive franchise has actually handled costumes probably the best out of any fighting game series I know of. But I do hope that locking costumes and bundles doesn't happen in Tekken. The last issue may not apply to Tekken as we just don't know yet, but it is in Mortal Kombat 1, so it is still very much a possibility. The issue is when cosmetics are rotated in and out of the in-game store as if their availability actually depends on stock levels. For example, this Nitara skin was only available during a period where I wasn't playing Mortal Kombat 1, so when I came back to playing, there was no way for me to acquire the skin even though it was in the game. Eventually, the costume did return to the store and I had this feeling that I needed to buy the skin because who knew when it would come back again. This fear of missing out is just another scummy tactic that these gaming companies employ that preys on certain individuals more than others to get them to spend unnecessary amounts of money. We can only hope that when Tekken officially launches its store that it's more like Street Fighter 6's where you can purchase any costume whenever you want. I really don't want to have to worry that if I take a break from playing Tekken, I might miss out on my main's legacy costume for another year. Let me know your thoughts on Tekken adding its store and your experiences with cosmetics in fighting games in the comments below. Thanks for watching, please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more fighting game content.